Doing the thing with the gangsta lean, gangsta white walls in the back. Be thankful for what you've got. It is time for the Audible, and it's our Thanksgiving games preview. We're just doing the 3 games, Bloom, provided that they play them. But we're going to talk about them. Full disclosure, it's Tuesday morning. So, some things may change. But we've got 3 games to get to, and a little thank you, of course, at the end, like we do every single year. But it's Houston and Detroit up first. And on the Houston side of things, you'll go, okay, Randall Cobb with the toe could be placed on injured reserve. We're waiting for that to come through. You know that it's not really working with Duke Johnson Jr. You know that Deshaun Watson can spread it around and he'll use all of his other weapons and all those sorts of things. But with that, Randall Cobb, does Kiki Cutie earn what the heck flex value on Thanksgiving? I know what Bloom's thankful for. I'm thankful that we get to talk about the Texans side because the Lions side is not very fun.
Yeah, this is a sad game. This is just sad again for Lions fans. And see, there's been years on Thanksgiving that we've said, there was a dry stretch for the Cowboys, and the Lions are in a decades-long dry stretch. These are the teams that are the Thanksgiving tradition teams, and we have the future to look forward to. See, this game is kind of like the island of lost franchises matchup, but whereas the Lions, I'm not sure what the direction is. For the Texans, the direction is Deshaun Watson. And it's good. I think there was a Rick Smith clip of Rick Smith recounting how he basically said, we're going to go after Watson. It was Rick Smith, not Bill O'Brien. We can say these things out loud now that Bill O'Brien isn't part of the team, right? And again, you saw that exhale in the win over the Patriots because this is a team that, at least until last year, really owned the Texans, and the Texans beat them late last year, and then really I think put a cap on the Patriots season last week. And I suppose Lions fans are saying, can they put a cap on Matt Patricia's job? Matt Patricia saying, I'm not going to talk about private conversations I've had with management about my job. So, we'll see. But Deshaun Watson playing maybe one of his best games of his career last week. And Cecil, you have the bloodline here of the Patriots defense and man coverage and things that these wide receivers and Watson should be able to eat a lot. So DFS slates on Thanksgiving, staying entertained. I think you know who your quarterback's going to be. It's going to be Deshaun Watson. And this is the Potemkin Village. It's a literary reference. The Potemkin Village Lions defense. And that's like the village, it's all cardboard cutouts. You make it look like it's real, but it's not. Matt Patricievich trying to create the illusion of a defense that Deshaun Watson and company will dissipate very quickly. You're not going to trust Duke Johnson. This is such a bad matchup defensively, but still bad in terms of the defense is bad. I almost wonder, Cecil, if do more C.J. Precise or Scotty Phillips or something. Try something other than Duke Johnson to get this running game going. I think your priority is Cooks over Fuller in PPR leagues, but this could also be one of those every year we're waiting for it, Cecil, right? First of all, it's week 12, and Will Fuller's still healthy. So let's take a moment to give thanks for that.
You just bloomed him. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious.
Yeah. Maybe he'll have 13 catches. I don't know. 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. The big game, he hasn't had it yet. This could be it. As you said, Kiki Cutie. You have some fun with your Thanksgiving plate of DFS lineups. Maybe you sprinkle a little Kiki in there at the he's great for getting us like 9 catches for 60 yards, right? That's what Kiki does. Remember, he broke the record for catches in a debut game. And then there's Jordan Akins, who really came on last week and showed why they took him in the 3rd round, maybe pulling away from Darren Fells. We'll see if Kahale Warring, super athletic, raw tight end they took a few years ago in the 3rd round, will be active for this one. And again, Texans fans, you don't have a first, second round pick. You do have Deshaun Watson. You will get to see that on display. And then we'll see where this Texans franchise goes from there. It's really pretty wide open. I think that as we start to look ahead to next year, Cease, that we're all going to be on the edge of our seats. Who's the coach going to be? who's the GM going to be, what kind of direction is this franchise going to take. They're in good hands at quarterback, but a lot of question marks beyond that.
Bloom, the last time I did a 4-hour show on Texans radio with Cecil Shorts, by the way,
Yeah.
I did bring that up about, hey, Rick Smith wanted Deshaun Watson, not Bill O'Brien.
Right.
That was the last time I was on Texans radio.
Yeah, and also, you remember who started your week 1 that year?
Yeah, Tom Savage.
Pitt football great Tom Savage.
Yeah, there you go.
And they didn't even give Deshaun Watson first team snaps in camp that year.
Yep. In any preseason game, Deshaun Watson got 0 because Bill O'Brien's a moron.
Yeah.
That's why Justin B says the bad man is gone. Well, there's another one on the other side. His name's Matt Patricia. And then we have to go. I love these like Monday practice report. Well, they didn't hold a practice, so we just got to estimate it. But we're watching DeAndre Swift, right? Because we know TJ Hawkinson's already been a little bit banged up, and Kenny Galladay's already been a little bit banged up, and Danny Amendola's already been a little bit banged up. So you're dealing with a banged up team. Did I mention Matthew Stafford? No, not yet. Him too. Watching the injury report, waiting on these lines, or should you be? Other than Swift, who didn't play with that concussion that came on in the week. So either they didn't catch it on Wednesday and then he was out on Thursday, or he was concussed on Wednesday and then that's why he was out on Thursday. Either way, we're watching to see where DeAndre Swift is in the concussion protocol, and he would be the one that would be intriguing here. Outside of that, lots of question marks.
Right. This is a matchup that the Texans were going to want to target. Remember, the Colts get 2 more Texans matchups during the fantasy football season, not even one in week 17. Squandered. So the Texans are a team we want to target, really, with basically everybody, run and pass. But after the Lions got shut out by the Panthers, and see, this is a real test of can a team hit a reset, really hit a reset after they played, I think, the single worst game. Maybe there was that Cowboys game with Ben DiNucci. I don't know. That wasn't really that bad. They were in that game. Maybe the Cowboys game with Andy Dalton against Washington, which we'll talk about in a second, the rematch. My point is the Lions, just really didn't show up for the game last week. And can they turn around in less than 4 days and show up? Is it because of the tradition? Is it because they're used to this? I don't know. But I'm not trusting Matthew Stafford despite the matchup. Kenny Galladay was estimated limited. I don't know if I'm going to trust Kenny Galladay the first time back. Bradley Roby's back out there for the Texans defense, and while Roby's not a shutdown corner, again, this is a Lions team that was just going through the motions. Marvin Jones, really TJ Hawkinson is the one guy that I'd say we're going to continue to trust. DeAndre Swift estimated to not have practiced, still in concussion protocol, so you're really asking a lot. If Monday he's still in the concussion protocol, for him to be ready to play Thursday morning. And like you said, Danny Amendola, I think he is estimated out also Monday. So, again, these are all things, if you want to make excuses for Matthew Stafford, you're making those excuses. And Lions fans just tired of excuses. At least Calvin Johnson is a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. That's automatic, right, Cease?
Oh,
Automatic. Automatic. So, Lions fans, here's what you have to celebrate. You have Barry Sanders. You have Calvin Johnson. And that is something. And I think that we all know a lot of Lions fans. They're some of the best football fans. It happens with baseball too, Cease. When your team is going nowhere, you just become more of a fan of the game. And Lions fans, we're just sorry. And we're sorry that it has to be on center stage on Thanksgiving. But perhaps they'll give us a reason to be surprised.
I'd like something for baseball to make me a fan of something. So anytime you do a baseball reference, Bill, I'm just like, yes. You said that. This is how old we are. I remember being on Fox Sports before the draft talking about Calvin Johnson and how he was perfect. Not that anyone could miss on Calvin Johnson. So for the love of God, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I just, and now he's going to go in the Hall of Fame. So that's how we do it on this show since 2006. Where we get those hats made up, right? The Audible since 2006.
Yeah.
Since cassettes were still, they weren't even a thing back then.
No.
But anyway, all right, next game up is that Washington and Dallas rematch, but things a little different this time around with Alex Smith at quarterback. We know J.D. McKissick has that flex appeal in PPR leagues to be sure. And then Antonio Gibson, love seeing that emergence still continue for that young man. Terry McLaurin's matchup proof. You're going to plug him in as a wide receiver 2. Gibson's an RB2. McKissick is a flex. Maybe some Thanksgiving love, Bloom, for Logan Thomas. What are we doing here on the Washington side of things?
And I'm like totally remiss. Speaking about Cease, I would say that it's the Audible since flip phones. Basically, that's about the best we could do. we've been with you since you couldn't actually listen to it on a flip phone. And Ryan Gregoric in the chat room brought up that the Texans and Lions played a Thanksgiving game in 2012 that was a wild overtime game. I think it was a game when like they both missed field goals in overtime. It's fitting. It's fitting that Washington and Dallas might be for first place. Now the Giants have something to say about that. They have a tough schedule after the Bengals. Philadelphia plays Seattle. This is a big game. 3-7. Even the venerable Gil Brandt. And man, you gotta love that Gil Brandt is out there on Twitter, and his personality's out there, and he's still very much maybe all be as lucid as Gil Brandt is. And I don't even know exactly what his age is now. He's in his late 80s.
I just don't want to be like Bill Polian.
But, how is it that a team can be either in the top 5 of the draft or a division winner? That's where we are with the NFC East. First time out, Washington, you really didn't have to see much of their offense against Dallas because their defensive line dominated the game. But since Alex Smith has been installed as the starter, there's some efficiency here. There's some ability to move the ball. And what's really exciting about this game is a chance for us to see Antonio Gibson. And really watch how he continues to evolve as a running back. He hasn't come close to hitting his ceiling. You're obviously going to play him. J.D. McKissick, I think it comes down to whether you believe Andy Dalton and the Cowboys can make the back and forth game the way they did against the Vikings. In that case, and if Alex Smith still has to throw the ball 35, 40, 45 times in this game, then J.D. McKissick becomes really good. If not, then McKissick is still a low end what the heck flex. But if Dallas can't keep up, it's more Gibson and Terry McLaurin. And since I say this about getting to see Gibson, because has Washington even had a primetime game this year? Have they had a nationally televised game this year? I don't
think so.
So
no,
I could be wrong about that, but that's part of the reason that Terry McLaurin hasn't got the appreciation that he deserves. Right? I mean, he's already a true alpha receiver. He's already a receiver that we don't care who the opposing cornerback is. We know that Terry McLaurin, and we knew this last year. We don't care who the quarterback is. When is Terry McLaurin going to get to play with a good quarterback that can actually show you what he's capable of? It doesn't matter. He is one of the best. In his second year, 3rd round pick, overlooked, Senior Bowl, right? I mean, that was probably when the idea was planted in a lot of people's heads, like maybe there's more there. Stop, even heard this before. An Ohio State receiver can be a better pro than college player. Terry McLaurin, everybody. So we'll get to watch Terry McLaurin. Just enjoy it. And then it's the supporting cast players, again, DFS lineups. You want to have some fun, sprinkle in Cam Sims, Steven Sims, Logan Thomas. These are competent supporting cast players for Alex Smith. We'll see if they're needed. It's really up to Andy Dalton and that offensive line.
Yeah, too bad you couldn't get both Sims for the same price in DFS, because it's going to be a what the heck flex for some Sims. I couldn't tell you which one it is, and often get them confused. So there we have it. Dallas side, you feel a little bit better with Andy Dalton out there. Zeke with the full practice, although it's an estimation, but he practiced fully last week. Tony Pollard, you have in as a what the heck flex. Feel good about Amari. Feel good about CD taking some shots, but making some great catches. Not as good about Michael Gallup. You probably shut him down. Maybe. We'll look at that situation. And then, of course, you're going, I need help at tight end. Well, that help might be Dalton Schultz on Thanksgiving.
So this is, again, and by the way, Dallas's defense will also watch to see if they're tired, just because they had to chase around Dalvin Cook and hang on for dear life so often on Sunday afternoon. First time out, it was Andy Dalton, and it was just sad, Cease. It was just embarrassing. Like sometimes when there's that meet you at the playground after school at 3:00 and everyone's gathered around like, ooh, fight. And then, the fight is such a mismatch that you don't even want to watch it anymore. It was just sad for the Cowboys in that game. And they moved Zach Martin to right tackle against the Vikings. And the Vikings aren't exactly a team with a relentless pass rush or a defense that is difficult to handle, but they handled them. Andy Dalton and this offense looked very competent. Can that be accomplished in Washington with their defensive line? Because that was the blueprint. That was what we talked about going into the season. Hey, this Washington defense back seven ain't so good, but their defensive line is something to be envious of if you're another NFL franchise. Um, Zeke looks good. So maybe that's another thing. Zeke looks really good with his hamstring, and they were opening up some big holes for him against Minnesota. So maybe is it more Zeke to get regulated, keep this more of a ball control game, and then take those shots? You are going to go with Amari Cooper, probably with CeeDee Lamb, who looks good. Michael Gallup, we'll look back to him next year when Dak is back, and maybe he'll have a big play here and there. I just think that you don't call downfield passes against this defensive line. You want a nickel and dime maybe with some more Tony Pollard, with some more Dalton Schultz, as you mentioned. He's in our tight end one considerations. And Cecil will know, sometimes we talk about this concept like if I could know a number, I would be able to predict the outcome, right? This could be this could be like a fun weekly feature, right? Like what's the one number you would want to know from this game that would tell you the outcome of the game? And I would say it's just how many quarterback hits are on Andy Dalton. Because, if we start getting into the
I would say it's Zeke.
Yeah, or how many carries Zeke gets.
How many How many geeks for Zeke? How many carries for Zeke? Because that'll tell me are they in it or not.
Right, and those two things are interrelated, right? The more Zeke is on track, the more that you're in third and short, the more that you're not even getting to third down and you're avoiding third and longs, the fewer quarterback hits on Andy Dalton, and the more the Cowboys can make this the kind of game where their offensive skill players can really make a difference here. So there's a lot of different ways this game can go, and get a chance to watch Washington up close and personal, and see what they have for the halftime show. I went to I was at the 9 game, the Randy Moss game, rookie year game. I think it was Randy Travis at halftime that year. So I don't think it's gonna be Randy Travis this year. But so that's always something to see, too. The halftime take a little longer on Thanksgiving. By this time, you're getting ready to dig in to the Thanksgiving dinner. And hopefully, we'll have a game for dessert.
Yes, hopefully. So get the tryptophan nap in before Steelers and Ravens. Now, before we jump into the preview, Bloom, something that you mentioned as we came on air, you were like, Adam says there might not be a game.
Yeah.
So again, we're recording this on Tuesday morning because it's Thanksgiving week, and we're trying to cram 5 days of work into 3. So Tuesday morning, afternoon, whatever. Bloom, what do we know? Again, we're not previewing it yet. Just tell the listeners what we know.
I think 5 players, 4 coaches have tested positive, or 4 staff members for the Ravens. So we have our second outbreak. We have our second team outbreak. With the Titans, we saw a game delayed. Remember, we also saw the Patriots-Broncos game delayed. I think that if the Patriots-Broncos game, by the way, I think that under the approach the NFL has now, that game would not have been delayed. And I think that might have been them understanding this is the boundary. Like, we shouldn't have done this, and we're not going to do this. All signs are that this game is going to go forward, or at least the NFL is not giving out signs that it's not. But Adam Schefter said if there are further positives, that it may not go forward, at least on the scheduled time. Maybe it could be moved back to Sunday. And the other thing that I'm asking, Cease, because this is a time when community spread is at an all-time high in any country. The United States is setting the wrong kinds of records with coronavirus, and it's just more difficult to contain it. And the NFL had a system that seemed like it was containing it, right? High risk, close contacts, and the transmitters that they could see how much time players were spending around each other, and coaches and things like that. And the only player that was a high risk, close contact was Brandon Williams, the nose tackle. Although we're all watching like Baltimore, Tennessee at home and seeing these players congregating on the sidelines and saying, well, how is Lamar Jackson not a close contact? How is it? And I'm just curious if the NFL had any idea of these new contacts being more likely to be positives, because we're going to see so many things in our country stress tested over the next few weeks. And the NFL system is being tested right now. So I don't know that we're going to hear answers, because the NFL is not exactly the most transparent. But I'm just curious whether the system, because they all went into intensive protocol starting last week, right? Like all the teams were supposed to be in like the highest level of concern and practices to contain the spread of coronavirus. And here we are wondering whether we're going to have a game on Thursday night.
Preceding that, there is a game on Thursday night. It's Baltimore and it's Pittsburgh. So Baltimore side first, which means Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Gus Edwards against the Steelers run defense. We've seen them crack before. This is Baltimore. It's always a concern, Bloom. It's always physical. It's always tough. If it's Lamar Jackson, he's looking at Willie Snead and he's not looking at Marquise Brown. If it's Lamar Jackson, hopefully he's feeding Mark Andrew, a tough matchup, no matter who is in the middle of that defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there are some things to discuss, again, if things are played. Baltimore without J.K. Dobbins, without Mark Ingram, it's going to be the Gus Edwards show. What does that mean for the rest of the offense?
Yeah, this is an offense in a little bit of, I don't want to say a crisis, because if you watch the game against the Titans for a little while, I felt like, and remember, Lamar Jackson had been more efficient, more effective as a passer in the games leading up to last week, and it looked like they had that game under control. And it looked like they were having success against an inferior Titans defense. Things were starting to get better. And then things started to grind to a halt in the second half. And then you have a Steelers defense that already kind of had Lamar Jackson's number even before Jackson's confidence started to erode as he feels like the defense knows the plays that are coming. They're not counterpunching. There's not a counterpunch for this Ravens offense right now for Greg Roman. And you wonder also with the Steelers, without J.K. Dobbins, without Mark Ingram, is there a bit of an alteration, like using Justice Hill as a receiver out of the backfield? Love Robert Spillane. What they've lost with Devin Bush, I think, is their best defender against running backs in the passing game. I don't know if we're going to see more of that. Nothing is working passing outside the numbers downfield. Marquise Brown, a couple of drops, confidence at a low. Joe Hayden's a little banged up in this one. Can they figure out a way to get him or Miles Boykin involved? We know they're going to get Mark Andrews involved. Do you go as far to bench Lamar Jackson for this one? I think at least part of it should be based on how bad is it -2, is it -3 for turnovers? Because the Steelers have forced him into some turnover fest. 4 in the first game was really the difference in the first game. Devin Duvernay, Willie Snead, these are not guys that I'm going to start, but if the Ravens can have success on offense against the Steelers, these are the kinds of players that are going to have to get something done. So I think for the Ravens, you have on one hand that this team doesn't really have an answer right now for defenses. And Cecil, it can become one of those deals where whether or not the defenses know the play that's coming, if Lamar Jackson feels that way, then he's already kind of defeated himself before the ball has been snapped. And you can see it in how he's executing. He's not aggressive. He's not dictating anything to defenses. And I think the Steelers are going to first and foremost take away him as a runner and say, you have to beat us as a passer or someone else has to beat us in the running game. On the other side, you have the survival instinct. You have the idea for the Ravens that they're eliminated from the division if they lose this game. They're probably not going to win the division anyway, but also they're in 9 teams having winning records on the AFC side, so playoff spots are going to be hard to come by. So I think this is a game where they have to react more like that wounded animal that is cornered and playing for their lives. Not that isn't how this game usually goes anyway for Baltimore. And really, I think that there's a reasonable chance that still Baltimore will be the more successful offense of the two on Thursday night.
Well, and if you look at the situation, you go, okay, now they're more cornered because of the Tennessee game. Now they're more wounded. Now they're more desperate. All right, there's things you can do with Lamar Jackson that would work. They're just not doing them. How about some crossers?
Yeah.
How about a drag route? How about high-low reads? Like, there's so many things you could still do with Lamar Jackson.
Right.
And they don't. Okay, Steelers side of things. Nobody practiced Monday because they never do. Like, oh, my God, they didn't. Watch out for those penalty flags as Juju leaves with a toe injury last week, stepping on a penalty flag. Okay, I didn't know that was the thing. I know they could hit you in the eye and be quite damaging there, but I guess now they're damaging toes. Sucking on toes, whatever you want to say. Like, okay, Juju. So Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, you're excited to start. James Conner, is he back in our good graces against Baltimore? And then, of course, Ben Roethlisberger. Just enjoy it. Sip it up like a fine boxed wine on Thursday night.
Like an Iron City. So Baltimore showing cracks against the run. No Calais Campbell, I don't think. No Brandon Williams. Again, he's in one of those close contacts. But the Steelers have not exactly a bunch of maulers on the offensive line right now. You did see James Conner creating more on his own as a runner. There's some talk that maybe he won't be used quite as much. So Connor's still more of a running back too. Maybe we see a little more Benny Snell here. And the other thing that we saw a little more earlier in the year from the Steelers, and we saw it work very well for the Titans, is play action. So do we see a little bit more of that, taking some shots downfield? And the other thing that the Steelers have, I think, that can work against the Ravens is when they have 4 wide receivers and Eric Ebron, empty set, and you trust Ben Roethlisberger to negotiate whatever pressure is going to come from that, but someone's going to be open. That being said, and by the way, let's do a reset here because it is Baltimore-Pittsburgh, and I'm sorry that it's been overshadowed by the COVID storyline. We've already had this game once this year. Steelers win 28-24, didn't score any points offensively in the first half. Remember, Robert Spillane gets that pick 6, and then you also had a Lamar Jackson fumble in the red zone. You had a Lamar Jackson pick, Alex Highsmith making a halftime adjustment. Halftime adjustments, right? The Steelers made some halftime adjustments on offense that worked in that game. They had 2 successful drives after scoring no offensive points in the first half. But still, the Ravens had a chance to win that game at the end. A couple of chances. They got stopped on 4th down inside the 10 as they were driving. So the Steelers really hung on for dear life in that game and needed everything to break their way. They made their own breaks, don't get me wrong, to get that win. Now, the Steelers are going to get back Mike Hilton. They didn't have in that game. Tyson Alulu barely played in that game. That's going to help in addition to the losses on the Ravens side of the ball running game. Ravens are going to have back Marlon Humphrey. So now you look at the matchups and, Marcus Peters and Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool could absolutely hit for a big play. But remember, Peters also stripped the ball from Claypool. And Peters is pesky. Peters is one of those guys that's going to introduce you to what it's like to play an NFL corner where you can beat him and still not beat him. Or he's going to find a way to get you in the end. Of course, you've got Marlon Humphrey. Juju's with that toe issue. So he's someone I think that could take a lot of pressure off of Ben Roethlisberger in the short areas. But if he's not as sharp as usual, what does that mean? And then there's Deontay Johnson, who was a non-factor. Remember, last game was one of those ones where Deontay Johnson was off on the sidelines, testing out his hammering, non-factor in that game. So maybe it's Deontay Johnson that is the matchup that Roethlisberger is going to look to. And we saw it last week, and we've seen now for the last 3 weeks or so, that Johnson is replacing Antonio Brown as that guy that Roethlisberger's like, he's going to be open, I'm going to be able to get him the ball, we're going to be able to move the chain. We're going to be able to make this offense work with Deontay Johnson as long as we keep throwing to him. So maybe he's a key. And Eric Ebron. Ebron had a touchdown, like a busted coverage touchdown last time out against the Ravens. And he's going to be the best matchup for them. A couple of rookies out there, Patrick Queen and Malik Harrison at linebacker. But I still think that it's not going to come easy in this game. I think this could easily be a low-scoring game. This could be a game that is based on one turnover, field position, maybe a special teams play, and a game that I think that this is not one season we have to worry about the Steelers coming in lax or feeling like that they can just show up. So hopefully we get this game in. Hopefully it's not compromised by a lot of missing players for the Ravens, so we can't even really say it was a legit or quality win because this was set up to be a showcase game with maybe the biggest TV audience so far this year for the NFL, which might be why they're going to play the game.
Always about money. Always, always, and forever in this lovely, lovely world. Well, look at this, Bloom. Look at those young men. Right? We're even on the same side.
Right.
Look at that. We've had quite a few memories along the way, and in doing this show and building this friendship, certainly we've had some good times, some good pictures drawn.
I was cleaning the carpet.
He was.
I actually was.
There you go. And then that's one of my favorites.
New Orleans. It always comes back to New Orleans.
It does, man. Always. Kenny and Dolly and Kenny. We're like Bugs Bunny. We'll just, okay, whatever. Yeah, you're Kenny today. I'm Dolly. I'm Dolly tomorrow. You're Kenny tomorrow.
Cecil, what we really need is you on the bike that you, what'd you do? The classic, the run, 30 minutes, like from Wyoming to Denver.
17 minutes, 42 miles.
42 miles, 17 minutes. So like, do they make sidecars for those motorcycles? Because I'd be happy to be in the sidecar. I would actually still, even for the 17-minute, 42-mile journey, I would hop in the sidecar for that one. Just give me a good helmet.
Okay, yeah. Whew. And rocking with a sidecar would be a little bit different to
How do
do
you
that.
lean with the sidecar? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It
Maybe it's like
wouldn't.
a sidecar that has extra wheels on the side too, so as you lean, it
Well,
can.
why's it got to be a sidecar? Why can't you just ride behind me and
On a
hold on to my
moped,
waist, Bloom?
I'll be
Yeah.
on a moped.
No, we'd be on the same bike. You just hold
Oh
on to my
yeah,
waist.
that's true. I could do that. That'd be
See,
perfect. That's the Kenny and Dolly picture. Yeah.
we can make that happen. That's for sure. Here on the Audible, it's our times to say thank you. I was digging for a picture of that old ninja. I'll have to find it later. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
it's our time to say thank you. And for our listening audience, it's a thank you to you guys. You know, we get so many notes, social networking or email or what have you, seeing people in person. When people are like, oh, and I was this and this was going on, and I listened to you guys and it helped me out so much. And it's major stuff. I mean, life is heavy, man. There's a lot of difficult things that a lot of us are going through. Know the journey, right? David Foster Wallace, This is Water. Understand what other people are going through during your day. We're being goofballs doing a show. If that's helpful to you and what you're going through, great, because you're helping us. Like, we get to get into this universe and to be those goofballs doing a show, but it's also like it's very therapeutic to do this show. Doing this show makes me happy, Bloom.
Yeah, yeah.
And as I've told you a million times, like, even if we didn't get along, we'd still have to do the show because we have great chemistry. And chemistry is very tough to find. But we do get along and we do respect each other's opinions and viewpoints and all those sorts of things. But mainly the thank you is to you, the audience. Obviously, thank you to my family. First of all, that's why I do everything I do, is for my family. I'm very, very thankful for that. Thankful to have this audience, thankful to have this situation, and just thankful that y'all are out there and working through this. We always remind during the holiday season, Bloom, holiday season isn't a good time for some people. So if you're struggling out there, as we get towards Christmas and everything, and there's holiday depression, that is a real thing that settles in for people, like, reach out to us. And we're here for you. You're here for us. And it's a great thing to kind of enjoy this journey together. So as I pass you the baton, Bloom, as we are pass you the wishbone, right? Here from the turkey, like, what are you thankful for here this year?
Yeah, see, so on the occasion of us doing this show, anytime we do this show, and I want to echo that sentiment of, like, it puts me in a good mood to do this show because of you, because of our community, because it just reminds me of good things. We're so lucky, ridiculously lucky, honestly, that I think everybody in life, we have a need to feel like we are seen and heard in some way. And we are so fortunate because and I don't want to speak for you, Cease, but I know that we have that kind of relationship. We need attention. We're needy. you know, and y'all are so gracious to give us that and thank us for that because it, especially during this year, has just been so nourishing and sustaining to get to connect with you, to get connect with everybody in our Football Guys Audible family, and to get to connect with everybody in our chat room or people that reach out to us via email or social media or what have you, because it gives us a meaning and purpose that aligns with something we just love to do anyway and something that fulfills other needs for us. We are so ridiculously lucky to get to do this thing that we pretended as a kid as our job. And I hope that we can continue to provide some value, whether it's specifically for fantasy football or your enjoyment of football or otherwise just being a presence in your life, being something real. In this moment, Cease, I think that it's harder and harder to find things that are real in life.
Yeah.
And I want to say, life is hard. I mean, life is hard as it is. Everybody you meet is in a great struggle, be kind. But now it's really hard. And I'm afraid that with what we've endured this year, in some ways, the worst is yet to come. I certainly think economically, financially, for a lot of people, the worst is yet to come. And please, if we can be, we have this megaphone, and if things are hard out there, if either they're specifically hard because it's harder to get by because of everything that has broken down in our economy, or if it's hard because everyone's depressed. I've brought this up on the couch like almost every week. I mean, we're all depressed. We're all getting by. We're social animals, and we're all getting by on less oxygen than what we're used to. So if there's any way we can be of any aid, at this time of year especially, like it would make me feel better. Honestly, this again, it's about me. See, it's always about making me feel better. Like I would love to feel like if there's somebody in our community or somebody in our community that they're close to, please let us help in some way and use this megaphone to help at a hard time because we try to keep things light and we try to be a distraction, but at the same time we know it's heavy out there. On a more personal level, of course, I'll use this moment to say I'm so thankful for the love of my life, for Kate, for my wife, who taught me it's never too late to learn how to love and be loved. I'm still learning, Cease.
It's important, man.
And I think that if there's anything that we can take and hopefully remember at this time is to be open, even though it's more difficult for us to be a part of each other's lives the way we were before, to be open to each other, to be open to the blessings and positivity that we can bring to each other's lives, and whatever the circumstances, whatever the conditions. I think as we go through our lives and we recount the things that fill us back up, the things that really sustain and nourish us. It's not the stuff that we spend so much time thinking about, It's not our careers. It's not whatever it is that we obsess about and think is so important, getting that house and that zip code so your kids go to that school or whatever. It's the little things. It's the little moments. It's the moments of humanity that we pass in between each other. See, we talk about this a lot. Like we're all part of a one whole. In some ways, being in this human spaceship container gives us the illusion that we're separate, I and the ego and things like that. But it's the moments that we dissolve those boundaries and feel at one with this great, amazing thing that we're part of that bring us back and make us forget about those things. And I think that this is also a time that we can look to, as always, Cease, right? I mean, we always end up hitting the same themes. They're cliches because they're true.
Mm-hmm.
That our elders, Cease, I don't talk about this much, but my dad's wife, Marcia, has been fighting cancer for like 4 years now. I mean, just an incredible fighter, an incredible fighter. And when I was talking to her about coronavirus, when we went to visit in September, socially distanced and masked and all those things, she just said, well, when it was the war, we just didn't drive our cars because there wasn't enough rubber for tires. And we just did this and did this and this. Now it's coronavirus. We just do this and this and this. And that's what we do. And I think that I've come back to that moment so many times to help if I start to feel worn down by all these changes, to say like, well, this is what we do and we can do it and we can still help each other through all of this and get to the other side with a renewed sense of love and appreciation for life and all the reasons that we don't want our life to be diminished and we don't want to get sick or we don't want to die. We don't want to see people get sick and die. And I know it's one of those things where I feel like I don't need to say this to our audience. I feel like our audience is pretty level-headed, but I think this is a time right now that for everybody, like you said, Cease, being a good neighbor, it's a way to show consideration for other people, and it's also a way to get to the other side. There's been great news about vaccines. Get to the other side, then we can celebrate everything that we have and hopefully keep it intact. So there's so much going on right now. I think we're all laboring under a much heavier burden than we realize, and there's a lot fewer things to help us with that. But the most important thing we have is each other, and it's you all out there that are so generous to us to allow us to do this. And if whatever little way that it helps you, I'm thankful because again, Cecil, I'll say the number one thing we all do wrong the most is that we don't ask for help when we need it. And you're not being a sponge. You're not being a leech. I know in this country, our
Not being
attitude,
weak, right?
right,
I'm
right.
weak if I have to ask for help. No, you're very strong.
Everyone
to
is
do that.
strong. Everyone
Mhm.
is strong in this country. And I know that our culture and rugged individualism creates the myth of the self-made person. But we all are standing on the shoulders of lots of other people. And when you ask someone for help, you're not being a sponge. You're allowing them the opportunity to have grace flow through them and get to that higher vibration. So again, I want to implore people if there's anything we can do to help, even little things. You know, I see Peckish, one of our regulars in the chat room, saying he lost his pit bull last night, and I just feel like saying, like, I recognize that sucks, and that's a hard time to be experiencing that. And we can just sometimes, I know we say something on a show that can amplify that and help those wishes get back to people. So, you know, it's real. And I just, again, can't say enough how thankful we are to have this opportunity, that this is our life. This is the role that we get to play in the story. And I hope we can continue to play a positive role in everyone's story out there.
And remember that we are always stronger together than we are separate. And remember that when you're interacting with people. Are you an agent of division? Or are you an agent of unity? I'd rather be on the side of unity. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Hope everyone has a great holiday. He is Sigmund Bloom. I am Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.